Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joe Pisapia, and it's time to look ahead at Week 7 in the NFL, get all the stats, get all the numbers that are going to impact your bets, and, of course, our good pal, the data scientist, Sam Hoppen, is here to help all of you get those numbers right in Week 7. Sam, before we dig deep into the week ahead of us, we got to kind of look at a big piece of news that just dropped here as we were recording the show, which is Davante Adams now officially a Jet. I'm so disappointed in Davante Adams. I mean, come on. If you want to go to the playoffs, I don't know if the Jets is the way to go. But Aaron Rodgers continues to be coach, general manager, possibly even owner of the team. I'm not exactly sure where things are. But Sam, let's take a look at the numbers and maybe if you see any value here at all. The Jets to make the playoffs is at plus 138 for a yes, minus 170 for a no. The Jets to win the AFC East is at plus 490. So I don't know if any of these numbers really click for you. And of course, the win total is 7.5. Over is minus 162, but the under is plus money at 130. So what do you make of this move for Adams, the impact it has, if any, on some of these Jets futures?
I actually don't think it moves the needle for me that much. I mean, Adams is 32 years old, coming off of a hamstring injury. How real that hamstring injury was, I guess we'll see in a couple of weeks here, but I still just don't trust this offense a ton. I mean, watching them on Monday Night Football, it was Breece Hall, 1 yard rush, Breece Hall, 2 yard rush, pass incomplete, and they go 3 and out. And it just seems discombobulated still. I mean, maybe it moves Alan Lazard down the depth chart a ton, but he had been playing pretty decently and has that connection with Rodgers already. I think this probably has more of a fantasy football impact than betting, which is what we're talking about here today. And I think it probably raises the floor a little bit of the Jets offense, but it's not going to unlock this new ceiling that we haven't seen from the Jets already. So I don't see any value in many of the features right now. I think you just attack this situation more on the player prop side of things, try to get ahead of where you think Adams or who you think Adams might impact the usage of the most. So still waiting to see if he's going to be active this upcoming week too.
I imagine he's active if you're going to trade a third-round pick for him. And I imagine Mike Williams might be the odd man out after last night's slippage. Before we get into the numbers here for Week 7, just a reminder, Michael Strahan jersey is up for grabs. It's free, and if you want a chance to win it thanks to our good friends over at pristineauction.com, all you need to do is head over to bettingpros.com/contest, complete the form, and either download the Betting Pros app, leave a review of the Betting Pros podcast, or subscribe to our social media channels at Betting Pros, on X, on TikTok, and of course, Betting Pros NFL on the IG. More actions you complete, the more entries you receive, and we'll be announcing the winner right here on the channel. So subscribe to Betting Pros YouTube, ring the bell till it goes ding, and of course, always drop your comments below. Sam, let's dig into Week 7 here. We've got the Colts versus the Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins are coming off that bye. We're hopefully getting closer and closer to a Tua return. Goodness knows the Miami Dolphins want that in the worst way, and the Colts still some uncertainty who their quarterback will be for Week 7. We assume Richardson, but then again, Flacco kind of keeps getting the job done. So I don't know if there's any quarterback controversy in your brain, but what are your takeaways here when you start to dig deeper into this game?
So this game opened with the Colts favored by 4.5, went down to Colts minus 2.5, and now I believe it's Colts minus 3.5, depending on where you look. Let's start on the Colts side of things. So Anthony Richardson was in line to start this past week, and then Sunday morning it was a surprise for Joe Flacco to be starting in that game. He obviously brought them to victory over the Titans, and this week they've said, barring any setbacks from Anthony Richardson, he is going to be the guy. And I think, while I think Joe Flacco gives them the best chance to win, that's not the Colts' priority right now. They want to see what Anthony Richardson is, make it gather more data about him and understand if he is the guy for the future. And so I do think if he is healthy, he is going to play. I do see him as, at this point, a slight downgrade from Flacco. I mean, we saw after they announced Flacco the starter, a bunch of money poured in on the Colts, and rightfully so. So I think it'll be Richardson. Would be shocked at this stage because Richardson did seem close to starting this past week. But on the Dolphins side of things, you mentioned they're coming off of their bye. I think week 8 is the first week that Tua is eligible to return from injured reserve. But a couple injuries to monitor on their side of things. Devon Achane had a concussion that he suffered in week 4 prior to their bye. Hopefully the extended time gives him the ability to return, but we've seen with players like Malik Neighbors, he hasn't been able to return in several weeks now. And then safeties Jafon Holland and Jordan Poyer also dealing with injuries that could impact the secondary for the Dolphins. So I think, again, with this line sitting at 3, it could flip-flop either way, depending on how some of these injuries play out.
All right. Speaking of line movement here, as we go to the second game, Vikings and Lions. This is a huge marquee matchup for the division, the NFC North. The Lions coming off a very impressive win. The Vikings are undefeated off the bye week after traveling from London. So a lot to unpack here. But what's looming the most right now is the health of Aaron Jones and how that might impact the line one way or another, potentially. Look, the Vikings have been great defensively. The Lions have been great offensively, but that's not the only injury besides Aaron Jones, too. No, Aiden Hutchinson could have an impact, too, on this line as more and more people have time to digest that truth. So what are your thoughts on the Vikings-Lions here, which, again, is going to have huge attention on it this week?
Yeah, this is the premier matchup of the week. One of, if not the best offenses in the Detroit Lions going against one of, if not the best defenses in the Minnesota Vikings. This opened with the Vikings favored by 1.5. It's actually moved a little bit. Vikings are favored by 2.5 in the market. And I think some more money could come in on Minnesota, especially if they do get healthier. Now, not all points are created equal. So getting from 2.5 to 3 to 3.5 on the back of Aaron Jones' health, I don't know if that necessarily will happen. I think it would be just more confidence in the Vikings overall, but he is a massive upgrade over the likes of Ty Chandler and Myles Gaskin in the backfield there. I also wonder if the market realizes that we shouldn't necessarily upgrade Detroit's offense after their blowout win. Like they were already one of the better offenses in the league, and the Cowboys defense is not what it used to be. So blowing them out like that is just not as impressive, I think, as it might have shown. I mean, they were playing with their food at the end there, trying,
they were
throwing
and look,
passes to
the
offensive
Dallas
linemen.
defense was missing Parsons and Lawrence. Like, I mean, it's not at full strength, clearly.
Yeah.
But still, another embarrassing loss at home for them. But you're right. I mean, the offense for the Lions is already, top tier. So maybe that doesn't change too much in terms of people's concepts.
And then to your point, Aiden Hutchinson, losing him is huge. He was the favorite for Defensive Player of the Year before leaving. I think the Lions could be in the market for another edge rusher now. There were reports this morning that Hassan Reddick could be seeking a trade from the Jets, who he hasn't played it down for yet. I could
Jets got to get some picks back now, Sammy.
Yeah, I could see the Lions being in the market for them. But one other thing on this, Jared Goff has been one of the worst quarterbacks in terms of EPA per play when he's in obvious passing situations. And I think Minnesota could take huge advantage of that. I mean, we haven't seen the Lions really in some massively negative game scripts so far this season. So I like the Vikings this week. I think I'd rather get it now. Obviously, it's at 2.5 under that 3 before it moves further, and think these teams could be trending in slightly opposite directions.
Now, the next game we're going to talk about from a line movement standpoint is not a marquee matchup. I don't believe in any way. It's the Saints and the Broncos, and injuries are really the story here when it comes to the Saints. Just a ton of them. Shaheed, Olave with the concussion. We know Carr's out already. So this is a weird one here. I thought that the Denver Broncos at home would be the upset special of the week. They did not perform to my expectations. Still a little bitter about that one, Sam. But when you're digging into this matchup here and all the injuries of the Saints, what does that mean from a line standpoint?
Yep. So Chris Olave suffered a concussion on Sunday. I would imagine he's out, especially on a short week. Taysom Hill was out this past week with his rib injury. I don't know whether he's going to play or not. Rashid Shaheed also now dealing with a knee injury, and it sounds like that is a bit more serious than initially thought. So I doubt he plays in this game. And then we've got Spencer Rattler, a fifth round rookie quarterback in his second ever start on a short week without all of these playmakers. And we've seen the line move from the Saints being favored by 1.5 points to now being 1.5 point underdogs. So again, this is a really tough situation for the Saints. Now, the Broncos offense is dreadful. I mean, Bo Nix, we're 6 games into his career, but it's not looking great right now. So the question is whether the Saints defense can do enough to keep the Saints in this game. But I think there's a better chance that the Broncos somehow move the ball a little bit, and that Broncos defense, which has been quite incredible this year, Pat Surtain, if he's injured, could change some things as well. But I think the Broncos rightfully should be favored. It's going to be an ugly game. You said it's not marquee. It is primetime Thursday night football. Yay. Can't wait to sit down and watch 3 hours of this. I might have to.
I can definitely wait.
Multitask.
I'll be watching the baseball playoffs instead, I'm pretty sure.
That's not a bad idea. But again, I think it makes sense. I don't know that this crosses 3. I think we've seen most of the line movement that we're getting from an injury standpoint. I don't know if, again, fully don't expect Olave or Shaheed to play. Taysom Hill playing is not going to move the line enough to get the Saints being favored again.
All right, before we get into the futures and some movement there in those markets, if you're looking for a way to get cash back to load funds on your favorite sportsbook or daily fantasy site, our partner Edge Boost, the financial platform for smart bettors, allows you to do just that. Here's how it works. If you go to bettingpros.com/edge and enter your information to sign up for their digital Visa debit card, you link your Edge cashback Visa card, and at any sportsbook, daily fantasy site, sweep site, horse racing operator, iCasino, or land-based casino digital wallet, for a limited time, you earn 0.50% cash back on all deposits with no limit. Some advantages of the card include Edge Boost allows you to instantly load and withdraw funds to and from your favorite sports platforms there, no matter what the waiting period is. When you're looking, there's none. There's no waiting period when trying to transfer funds from one sportsbook to another to catch that line that you had your eye on before it's gone. Those are the lines we're talking about here on the show, and Edge Boost pays you on every single transaction just for using the card. Depending on how many times you withdraw and redeposit, you can earn thousands in cash back, and there's no minimums or costs to maintain an account. Edge only makes money when you use the card, and they pass through significant portion as cash back. The card is backed by no fee, no minimum, FDIC insured, dedicated betting bank account, meaning no frozen accounts or transaction reviews, just a safe place where you can deposit and withdraw your money. So sign up today through bettingpros.com/edge and lock in your 0.50% cash back for this limited time. That's bettingpros.com/edge. Go sign up today. Back to the futures and back to Aiden Hutchinson and that injury we were just talking about. It feels like now, if you're looking at, TJ Watt's the favorite at plus 150. Those guys were kind of neck and neck. And now there's a huge divide. It's TJ Watt and the field. Chris Jones is at plus 700, Will Anderson at plus 800. So really, it feels like TJ Watt's to lose, and the only way he loses it, especially after a performance where he's knocking balls out of people's arms last week, to me, is just health, which has been the one thing that TJ Watt has struggled with in recent seasons. So how has this Hutchinson affected this market, and where do you want to go? Do you want to just take the plus money on TJ Watt, or do you have your eyes set somewhere else?
Yeah, very very timely forced fumbles there by TJ Watt amidst the Hutchinson injury. But at this point, again, laying plus 150 on a favorite for an awards market 6 weeks into the season is not really where I want to tie up money. So there's a couple of guys a little further down the list, and I'm looking for sort of a specific profile. First, you got to be a pass rusher. I mean, in the last 10 years, only Stephon Gilmore in 2019 is the non-defensive lineman to win the award. I want a defensive lineman who can convert pressures to sacks, has some name value, and is on a team with a good enough offense that is going to be forcing other teams to pass, because if their opponents are passing, they've got a chance to generate pressures and generate sacks. So the first one that sticks out to me is Nick Bosa. When I pulled the odds this morning, he was 18-1 per Next Gen Stats. He leads the league with 34 pressures. He only has 3 sacks, but he has 15 quick pressures, which is third most. Trey Hendrickson, look, I know the Cincinnati Bengals defense has been terrible, but he's 7th in pressures. He already has 5 sacks. And I think, again, with the way that the Bengals offense plays, they're able to put up points. It's going to force other teams or their opponents to pass the ball as well, to play catch up or keep pace. And Hendrickson has been probably the lone bright spot on that defense. And then if you really, really want to go down the board, Will McDonald. And this is from, he's 130-1. This is from Seth Walder. This was prior to last night's game, so I don't have the updated stats. But per Seth Walder, Will McDonald has a 19% pressure rate this season. And if he kept up that pace, it would be the highest pressure rate by a player in a full season in their pressures data set since 2017. He's currently tied with Dexter Lawrence for the most sacks among active players. He's got 7. Obviously, Hutchinson no longer active. He had 7.5. But again, if you think this Jets offense can turn it around and the team in general, Will McDonald is having a really, really good year so far, and think he could potentially lead the league in sacks, which is a huge check mark for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, Dexter Lawrence right now is an interesting one. He's got 7 sacks. You mentioned Will McDonald. The other guy, too, that I think has an outside shot that's kind of interesting is Danielle Hunter. He kind of fits the bill of what you're talking about, too, which is pretty good offense, a team that's got some expectations around it. And Hunter, recently at least, seems to look like he's getting back into his old form. That would be another guy that I would kind of circle on this list. It's still TJ Watts to lose, everybody, at the end of the day. Go ahead, Sam. You look like you got more to add on that.
Yeah, I think the issue with both Lawrence and Hunter is they're competing with other defensive linemen that are having well. Sure. I mean, Will Anderson playing well for the Texans. Right. The Giants have Brian Burns, and unfortunately, Kayvon Thibodeau is injured right now. So I think some of that could potentially confuse voters a little bit, but and potentially like split some of those votes. But both good looks for sure.
Yeah. Again, it feels like TJ Watts to lose, folks. So, and plus money, I actually bet it today because I wanted to see what it was going to be when all the dust settled on everything. And I'm almost surprised it settled at plus money at all. It's plus 150 in most markets. Sometimes you get a little bit better number somewhere else, but I thought it might even be like a minus 110 at this point or minus 120, and it's not yet. It's not. So as long as he stays healthy, that's the key. All right, let's get into some of the stats, some of the numbers. Let's start with Joe Burrow versus the Blitz, because you've got some numbers here on that.
Yeah, so the Bengals this week will play the not mighty Cleveland Browns, but the Browns do blitz at the 3rd highest rate in the league, and Joe Burrow is averaging 0.21 EPA per play against the blitz. That's tied for 7th best in the league. The Browns also play a ton of man coverage on defense, and the Bengals have 2 receivers in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins who can win easily against man coverage. Again, we talked about the Browns at length last week, so I won't get into their side of things, but I really like Joe Burrow, his passing alts, and the alt spreads for the Bengals, because the Browns, again, are facing a terrible Bengals defense, but we've also seen them play some other terrible defenses and not be able to move the ball. So really love the Bengals this week, and I think the way that Joe Burrow plays and excels matches up well against this Browns defense.
The next one we have on tap is the Ravens traveling to Tampa. And this should be a fun one, out of conference game. But we were talking about this yesterday on the Look Ahead show. If you missed it, go back and watch on the YouTube or listen to it on the podcast. But what Erickson and I were talking about was, how the strengths of the Ravens kind of play into a little bit of the strengths of the Bucks, which makes this a really interesting game. Derrick Henry has been absolutely phenomenal. That 925.5 number that I went over on for the rushing total in the year, it's looking pretty good right now, knock on wood. We'll see. Maybe another couple games we'll get there. But Sam, what are your thoughts on this one, and what numbers jumped out at you when you're starting to do the research into this contest?
Yeah, so this is going to be a fun one. So Baltimore's offense ranks second in explosive pass rate. So an explosive play here is a play of 15 or more yards. Tampa Bay's defense ranks 27th in explosive pass rate allowed. Tampa Bay also could be without Jamel Dean, their second highest graded coverage defender. And then you have Tampa Bay's offense, which ranks third in explosive pass rate against Baltimore's last ranked explosive pass rate allowed. The Baltimore defense is a pass funnel. Their run defense has been elite. They're fourth best in EPA per rush allowed, first in success rate allowed, third in yards before contact allowed, and first in explosive rush rate allowed. The way to attack both of these teams is through the air, and both of these offenses have success doing so. And doing so generating explosive plays. They're going to be able to move the ball. Again, teams know that the way to attack the Ravens is through the pass. They have the highest pass rate over expectation against in the league. I think, again, the way these teams are playing, the over-under sitting at 48.5. I got it at 48 last night when I was looking through this. I honestly might take some all overs even at this high number. I mean, when you're passing the ball too, if you have an incomplete pass, it's going to stop the clock. A possibility for more plays. I don't know how this isn't the highest total game on the board right now. I mean, I haven't run my numbers in terms of what I make it, but this is, again, you mentioned there's some strength on strength matchups. There are some strength on weakness matchups as well, and I think these teams are going to exploit those.
Yeah, good points there, and I'm with you on the over for this one too. I think it gets there. Last but not least, another game that I am staying away from the game itself as a wagerer, but I am running to the props on the Saquon Barkley game against the Giants in New York, or should I say New Jersey, really, in MetLife. I think Saquon is going to take that ball, shine it up real nice, and shove it straight up the Giants' rear end. I just feel like that's what we're going to get here, but we were talking about the Giants' defensive players, and we were talking about how they do get after the quarterback. So how can that impact this game?
So prior to the season, I thought the Giants' pass rush, was one of the best in the league because of the players that they had. But I didn't think it would have that big of an impact because they were going to be going against some of the best offensive lines in the league on their schedule. But they have been one of the most impressive units so far, and it's kept them in games. They only get pressure at the 11th highest rate in the league, but their 11.6% sack rate does lead the league. I mentioned earlier they did lose Kayvon Thibodeau to IR last week, but they still pressure Joe Burrow on nearly 50% of his dropbacks on Sunday Night Football. The Philadelphia Eagles just lost Jordan Mailata to an injury. They could also be without Dallas Goedert. Eagles offense still just hasn't clicked quite yet, even though they got both of their star receivers back this past week. Their best method of moving the ball has been their ground game. And I think, again, Saquon Barkley in this revenge game is going to be the way that they attack them. But ultimately, I think that New York's pass rush will keep them in this game. I think the Giants could keep this within the current 3-point spread, especially if they get Malik Neighbors back and they're able to regain some of that explosiveness in the passing game on offense. So again, preseason, you look at this, a 3-point line between the Eagles and the Giants, and you're like shocked that that's the case. But I think it makes sense with where these teams are now.
Well, especially with the way Sirianni has made decisions, and the fact that Jalen Hurts is turnover prone doesn't help. And when you factor in that to what you're talking about, which is the pressure on the quarterback, bad decisions sometimes happen. Maybe start looking at some props for some turnovers there, some interceptions potentially for Jalen Hurts. That might be an interesting way to go in this game as well. All right, before we jump into the survivor pool yet again for week 7 and see if we can get a lock W, I want a quick reminder, when you sync your sportsbooks for free over the BettingPros app and you download that bad boy, you also check out the betting systems tool that's out there. Our new BettingPros systems tool is designed to help you find winning strategies and make smarter bets. You can customize your betting systems by sport, bet type, and time frame to find the best opportunities using real-time data and expert analysis from folks like Sam Hoppen himself. Track the performance of different betting systems over time, and you can optimize your bets to increase your chances of success. So download the BettingPros app today, elevate your sports betting strategy, and take advantage of, first time too, we're getting a free month of premium on BettingPros. So if you haven't downloaded the BettingPros app yet, now's the perfect time. NFL, college football, baseball, hockey, NBA, you name it, we've got it. You can bet on it right now. So use the premium tools that we have available on BettingPros for free for the next 30 days. Just download it, click yes, I want free stuff, and the next thing you know, you're making money. Sam, survivor pools have been tough in 2024. There's no doubt about it. So where are you going this week for your pick?
I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Rams. Coming off the bye, they play the Las Vegas Raiders. The Rams could get Cooper Kupp back, which would be massive, but the Rams have one of the best rushing attacks in the league right now, especially with Kyron Williams. The Raiders really struggling on defense, struggling everywhere. They're for sure not going to have Devontae Adams back now. They don't have Christian Wilkins to help on the defensive line. Again, coming off the bye, Sean McVay, I'm sure has a lot of stuff cooked up. It's not an advanced handicap by any means, but I just think these are teams that I think the Raiders are just a dead team at this point. Like, yeah, I don't know 100%. What they are. They're moving on to 2025 already. Yeah. So give me the Rams.
Whatever good vibe showed up last year when Pierce took over, they are dead in the water right now. It's just like that. I'm going to stay on brand with the hoodie today. If I was still alive in my survivor pool this week, I would take the Buffalo Bills at home against Will Levis and the Titans. Will Levis, the gift that keeps on giving, if that gift is turnovers and bad decisions. And that's what Will Levis has done. And maybe we'll see a change of QB. Who knows? But the Tennessee Titans on the road, I just don't think they're going to get it done. So, yeah, I know Tony Pollard's looked pretty good. That's been positive. But it wasn't a big, decisive, blowout victory against the Jets. So I don't see this game as a trap. I see the Buffalo Bills focused on saying, hey, this is a W at home we should be able to get and continue to separate yourself from the pack of the AFC East. So go Bills. Let's go Bills Mafia. My favorite thing I saw week 2 was I don't know if you saw this, Sam, was the social media stuff where the guy had his baby, he's a Bills fan, and he put it through like a styrofoam Bills table as kind of like anointing the child as the Bills fan.
A different type of baptism.
A different type of baptism for sure. Baptism by fire without the fire, thank goodness, because it's just a small child. But Bills Mafia never disappoints on the internet, that's for sure. Again, we love to hear from you. Subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell till it goes ding and let us know what the numbers are you're looking at the most when you're making your bets in week 7. And of course, check out Sam's work over at bettingpros.com today. That'll do it for me and Sam, but the story of the game goes on. We'll see you next time, kids. Have a great week 7.